Hey, friends, it's a Wednesday night. I'm Dina Hall. This is Flex, Adapt with Intent. And I'm so excited tonight because I have two friends. They are friends and they are my friends. So, three friends. We're going to have a fantastic conversation tonight about relationships and creativity and absolutely adapting during a time when it was kind of difficult to do the things that we normally do. So, I'm going to welcome right now Regina Sayles
Hello.
and Becca Ackner.
Hi.
I can't believe that, um, like, you're in Pittsburgh, Becca, and Regina,
Yeah.
you're in East Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania. So
Mm-hmm.
we're all in Pennsylvania. I'm in Bethlehem, and this is the this is what we're going to do. We're just going to talk here tonight about some really cool things. And we were talking ahead of time about, like how we all know each other and the connections that we made. But for everybody who's tuning in, let's talk about how you two met and your friendship. Go first. Who wants to go first?
You tell it, Regina. You tell it pretty well.
Oh, okay. Well, you're gonna get the honest, uncut version right here.
Storyteller.
So I was in A Midsummer Night's Dream when I was a sophomore in college, and Becca was thinking about transferring to ESU from Northampton Community College. And so she came to see the show, and I think we might have briefly met there, but I didn't really remember meeting her until theater history class into my junior year. And then I walked in and I was like, who's that girl back there? She's really cute. And then I was sad because she was already dating somebody else, and that was it. But then that was the beginning of like the best friendship ever. So that's how we met officially, theater history class, and became
The confusion
friends.
being though that, I declared my love for the Indigo Girls, which
to
her just, automatically it was like, oh, and I was like, no, I just love the Indigo Girls. She was like, and which is also a lifelong love as well for Regina. But we became, I think, pretty fast friends through theater. Does that to people. I think creative people, especially, you get with another person who sort of gets your version of crazy, and you make each other laugh and you get each other's little jokes. And I think the bonding time is really fast, especially in college. You kind of find your people and who you can hang out with. And I think that's a good thing.
And often those become lifelong relationships, lifelong friendships.
Very true.
I think in that year in particular, too, 2001, we were together like when 9/11 was happening. Like we were all in a meeting in theater. And so I think that for whatever reason, for lots of reasons, bonded us, like all of us that were in the theater department at that time. So I think that had a lot to do with it, too. It was really, that was like our family, and I was so far away from my family. So, yeah.
But for those who, so many people I'm sure who know Regina or are familiar with her work, it's funny to think of, like she said, I first saw her in Midsummer Night's Dream, but how I saw her was she was coming down, rappelling it, like she was, in this harness thing, rappelling from the sky, with this like bright blonde hair, and like this tank top. And she was like, and I was like, who is this woman? I need to meet this person. And so that fills out the visual for you a little bit more. I was like, she's awesome. I love her. And she's a great actress too. Most people don't know.
So Regina, your part was, what was your role?
I was Puck.
Puck. I didn't want to say it wrong. And Becca, what was your role?
Oh, I just was there as an audience member. So I had come to see, we were like, all right, we'll see if we want to be in this theater program. Right. And so we said, how best to do that? We'll see a show, we'll go in the audience. We went with my theater mentor from Northampton, and we were like, this is good theater. And I was like, all right, I could go here. The beginning. And then we did shows together once we were in school together.
Yes.
I see. Yeah. So you did end up transferring to East Stroudsburg University, and then you jumped into theater.
Jumped on in. I had gone to Northampton for theater as well, and wanted to get my bachelor's in theater there. And it was a very sturdy program. But what was amazing to see is like what came after it. I think after our year, it grew so much.
Yes.
and became so much more diverse. And that's really exciting to see, especially in the Pocono area.
Oh,
And
yeah.
but
Oh, yeah.
I think we had a pretty solid theater education there.
Yeah, for sure.
And so okay, so now we were talking earlier about how I met, each of you, and Regina, I met you not long after this whole thing happened. We're thinking it was your senior year in college, and we were
Yeah, either that or right directly thereafter. Yeah. So like
and we were
2004, I think. Yeah.
and we were part of a um, fundraiser benefit. What was called a folk fest, but it was a very tiny folk fest up in up in the Stroudsburg area and it benefit women's resources of Monroe County, and it was at the Deer Head Inn, as I remember, and you remember it being at that fun place called Alaska Pete's up on
But I remember doing
209.
one in both places.
Both
Because I
places.
think I did it first. Actually, the one at Alaska Pizza, I think, was just you and Nina. And I think when we did the one at Deer Head, it was Jackknife. I'm pretty
Jackknife
sure.
Betty, yeah.
Yeah. Because I think that was the first time I think I met Bess Sherby. So
All right.
I'm
So
pretty
that
sure
that story is out for debate on how all of that worked. but over the years we have absolutely sort of we're like elasticity, right? We're just like we
Yeah.
come together and then we go do our thing and then we come together in so many cool ways. And that's what you were talking about, is that the theater and music and the arts in general bring people together in ways that you sort of walk along the same path, and then you come in here together, and then you go out, and then and you come back in again, and you kind of almost never lose that love.
Absolutely.
Very true.
I'm not going to get into those little stories yet. We'll save those for a little bit. Those stories of how we come back in together. I want to talk about your relationship. So you finish college, Becca. You're from Bethlehem.
Yeah,
My
so I
town here.
when I was very young, I grew up in Jersey, and we moved to Bethlehem right
Where
before high school.
Where in New Jersey?
Right on the edge in a little town called Stewartsville by
Oh, sure.
Phillipsburg.
Lovely.
Very tiny little area, a lot of corn, a lot of cows.
There's an intersection.
Yeah, there is that one. Yes,
I know it. I've been
know
through
it well. There's some great ice cream places, but it's I always say, I consider myself from Bethlehem because I went to high school there. I came of age there, and went to Liberty High School. Shout out Hurricanes.
Oh, very nice.
And it's a great place to grow up. But I came out to Pittsburgh. It was 13 years in October. I've been out here that long. So both of my sisters live out here and moved out for different reasons. And now all three of us, there's two more, all three of us live in Pittsburgh now, and none of us are from here. So it's sort of hysterical that we all ended up as Pittsburghers. But it's a fantastic city for so many reasons, but a very wonderful cultural art scene. That's having a struggle right now, like so many cities, and figuring out what to do next. And that's a day-to-day journey right now. But it was neat to go from one sort of, former steel town to another former steel town.
Yeah. Two
very distinct cities in the same state, but yet could be worlds different. So I love it here, though. It's a great city.
And Regina, you are originally from Tiffin, Ohio, correct?
Correct. Yes.
I pay attention to this stuff.
I'm telling you.
Yeah. So you passed sort of through Pittsburgh.
Yeah, just a little bit north of it. Yeah, I usually stay on 80, or I go south of it, depending on where in Ohio I'm going. But if I'm going to Tiffin, I would go north of it. And I have stopped on the way twice to see Becca. One time was planned, and the other time was a big surprise, which was really fun. So
which is cool because you have these rural roots. Would you say?
Oh, definitely,
sort of,
yes.
Yeah, and from Stewartsville, that's rural.
Rural.
And you're sort of mixing in those somewhat suburban, some not necessarily
That's
urban
funny. I never thought of
here.
that. That's very
Yeah, so
true.
you're kind of mixing all of those things in together. I look at these things because I think that they inform your art.
Mm-hmm.
They inform who you
Yes.
are, and
Yes.
they sort of make up your character is made up of all of those things in many ways. Yeah, Regina, your mom's watching.
I did. I said, hi, Mom.
Uh,
Hey, Alice.
I have the comments up, and I was like, in case there's
Alice.
anything
One
comes
of my
up, but I was like,
that is one of my favorite people in the whole world, right there. That woman.
She's pretty great.
Yeah,
She's pretty great, the
yeah,
Alice.
yeah. Um, so, uh, so the two of you have stayed in touch, over all this time. But have you collaborated? Have you worked together on projects prior to, or since since college till now?
We actually have. We, I mean, if you tell it, because
I'm
we
not,
sort
I'm
of
trying
worked on a
the
musical together,
play. Yeah.
a play,
So
a
somebody
play
had
with
come to me.
music.
Yeah. Somebody had come to me a couple of years ago and asked if he could use my music to write a play. And I said, yeah, but I didn't really think that. Well, so I said yes, and but I would want to be involved in it, obviously to make sure that it was being used correctly or like in a way that was meaningful. And so we started working on it, and then the more that the play got more developed, it was clear that the songs, like they didn't really fit. I felt like he was trying to write so the characters fit the songs, and I felt like he should have just written the characters, and then the songs could have come afterwards. And so it was I was so busy with like other projects and stuff, so I had called Becca and I said, hey, could you come in and just sort of like give your thoughts on this, because I've never worked on writing a play before. I mean, I've been in a bunch of plays, obviously, and Becca is a writer. And so, yeah, it was great. The project got to like a table reading and whatnot. And then Dennis, the person I was collaborating with, he really wanted to take it forward. And I got super overwhelmed and was just like, I'm not in the space to write this music right now. And 2019 was just like a really, really challenging year for me personally. And I was thinking 2020 was going to be like, yay. And then, well, we all know where that went. So, it's just like one thing after another in 2019 for me that was really hard. So I can't even get into all of it. We would take the whole amount of time up. So the play never actually materialized into a performance, but we did do a table reading, and I think it was great, and it was awesome to be able to work with Becca in that way. And I think that's kind of what led me to. There's so many creative ideas, and like whenever I need a tagline for something or whatever, I'm like, Becca, and I sent her an email and she'll send me like a list of all these ideas, and I'm just like, I love your brain.
And that's what you need, somebody like that. So Becca,
Totally.
that's where your PR and marketing
Yeah, and it's,
mind comes in.
through all of my most of my professional careers, because you have a few when you get to my age. I have been around communications, writing, marketing, but always been a copy editor, always been a writer, always been a copy editor. And so even if it's just, hey, throw me this version of your resume, or throw me your bio as musician versus bio as this or that, or an instructor, or whatever it may be, and I'll just polish it up for you, or just give it a little zhuzh here and there. But other times, I think what was great about the experience with the play was, even though it didn't necessarily come to any big conclusion, what really happened was we collaborated in a different way. We'd never really gotten things done on paper before, where it was like we shared a Google Doc, and I'd go in and do something, and she'd write a note, and she'd be like, oh my God, that's so funny. That's exactly how I would say that. Or, and I'd go in and write something else. And it was like feeling each other out in a new way, where we're using these other kinds of skills. So when it didn't, one of the reasons I think, and it was very profound for Regina as an artist, reflecting on some of the stuff in that play, a lot of those songs that he wanted to build it around were very, very old songs.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not to say they weren't good Regina Sayles songs.
Mm-hmm.
They are great songs. They are like classic Regina in my opinion, the OG.
Probably my
But
favorites.
right. And I mean, I feel such a personal connection to those songs, But at the same time, here was Regina as the artist looking at it, so, you know, having such a different feeling about these songs telling her story now, that the whole thing was kind of a great exercise to
Yeah.
see that, to have those kind of moments, and then the conversations that she and I would have on our own about the context and all those other things. It was a very cool thing because we just got to have this neat, you know, creative outlet. And okay, it didn't go anywhere, but it was a worthy exercise for that alone.
Right. Yes,
Definitely.
I can understand that.
Mm.
So, how did you end up uh, in the position that you're in with it's, and I had to look up what CLO stands for because I thought it should be obvious, shouldn't it? It should be obvious. Well, it's not
You know, it
obvious.
should, but it's we only use Pittsburgh CLO only uses that anymore. They don't spell it. They don't actually say it. So completely fine to say Pittsburgh CLO, but it does stand for Civic Light Opera.
Yeah.
And that's because way back when it was founded, the company actually was doing light opera, which is a little bit different than the modern day musical now. But it's a fantastic nonprofit theater company. And I was lucky enough to come on. It'll be 4 years in May. And I get to do PR and marketing for them. And that's everything from what we usually do, a big summer season. And that's kind of what we're known for, a 6 shows in 10 weeks over the summer. It's a very intense summer season experience, but wonderful. And then we also have a year-round cabaret theater. It's about 250 seats. It's like a little black box dinner theater. It's very cool. And that's more of a year-round entertainment, longer running, smaller shows. But yeah, so that's how long I've been doing that. And it's great because, like, you know, how many people can say they have a job in what they actually went to school for? It's not so much a thing that always happens. So
No, I'm
it's
seeing
kind of
more and
lovely.
more. I see more and more people that are. I look at what they do, and then I look at their resume, their education, and I think, interesting that you landed
You're like,
where you
oh,
are now. How do we connect those dots?
yeah.
You
And
know?
theater is one of those things that I've always felt, no matter what, you know, even when I was working in corporate, I was like, theater background, you are prepped and primed to solve any problem,
So much.
because it's
Yep.
like
Yep.
opening night is happening, whether it's opening night is the presentation you have to do
Uh-huh.
or the meeting you've got to be ready for. It's happening. So get on your blouse, get on your costume, know your lines, read your speech, whatever it is.
Whatever it
And I
is.
think it's a very good skill set to have going into any job situation, really.
I bet it is. And you know, you can put on, like, Regina, going back to your your release concert at the Sherman Theater with
Yeah.
Porter and Sayles. That was a
Yes.
big production, and it
That
was
was
a
a big
major
deal.
theater. And I remember you asked me to open, and I thought, oh, this is awesome because I know how to be an opener, and
Yes.
it's exactly the same. Well, there's a knack that you learn over time that
Yeah.
it's not about you, by the
I
way.
bet.
It's
I
just
bet.
not about you. You got a job to do, and you're here to prime these people for who they came to see. And you have to, there's a certain amount of giving that you have to be able to do and not taking when
Yeah.
you're in that spot. And I once opened for Willie Porter, and I will never forget, he called
Wow.
it, I know, up at the Mock Chunk Opera House, he called it the sacrificial folk bitch opener. And I have been that so many times that I get it. They're just like, get
My
out there,
gosh.
That's
just get
incredible.
out there and do your job. And here's a sandwich in the green room. You get a sandwich, and we get the buffet. And you know, all of that little stuff happens. But again, you just put on your outfit, pick up your instrument, and go out there and do it. And
And
but
get paid.
yeah,
You're doing a job. You need
that's
to
your
get
job.
paid.
It's a job. But then, Regina, you're in that position of you had to make sure everything was done.
Yeah,
Like,
because I've definitely been in the opening position more times than I've been in like the larger headliner position in that way in a theater the size of the Sherman. And yeah, I mean, when you're an opener, it is sort of like, yes, you do have a job and you go out and you prime the audience, but you don't have, I mean, you have to get there and do your sound check and everything, but you don't have to worry about like how many tickets are being sold and, you know, what's happening with the lighting. And, you know, we didn't have time to prep for like major changes, but there was lighting changes and all kinds of stuff that, you know, needed to be worked out. So yeah, it's a lot more stressful.
But coming up and through all of that, I'm sure that having that education and having that background and working with people like Becca probably helps get you to that point to make sure all of that. And then, of course, you can reach that level where you don't have to worry about any of that anymore, and you just have people to do that for you.
Right. No, but the tech people, like, I mean, I worked in tech when I was in college too. And I always tell my students, I mean, I teach lessons and I do like talkbacks and stuff with high school students about just, you know, having a career in music and what that means. And I always tell them, I'm like, get to know the sound person because they will make or break your performance. If they don't like you, they can make you sound like shit, you know?
That's right.
And not, I haven't really met too many that would do that exactly, but you know what I mean? Like it's just in your best interest to just be kind to all the stage people because they are working their butts off and probably have already been at the theater for 4 or 5 hours before you were. So
yeah,
that's also true.
That is very true. And they will be there long after you're gone.
Exactly.
Or they're sitting there waiting. They're like, we got to strike the stage. Could you get them out of here?
Yeah. Like,
totally.
And then you have to set up for the next thing, whatever that's going to be.
So I don't want to miss this wonderful point that we're going to get to is that, so 2019, you know, you had the play and it was proved to be a really good experience for both of you and it was learning and it was moving forward, which is cool. And then 2020 hit and we just heard all the air go out of that balloon.
Yeah.
So you came together and you started working on a new project, right?
Yeah. So it's crazy that, so 2020, Becca actually spent New Year's with me in East Stroudsburg. I had just a few friends over to the house and we had this great New Year's thing. It was awesome. We're all like, yay, New Year. And everybody at that party knew like just the personal and professional challenges that I had in 2019. So they were all like really like, yay, 2020. And and then so right before everything closed down in March, I was really like, okay, I had gone to California and recorded a single with a producer named Julie Wolf, who I had always wanted to work with. And I had met her when I was on the Melissa Etheridge cruise and we really hit it off and she was amazing. And so I fly to California, I do this single, I'm working with this marketing consultant to launch a Kickstarter campaign and then record a new album over the summer. And then, you know, get it all together, get all the promotional stuff together and then release it spring 2021. I was supposed to have a new solo Regina Sayles album. And then, well, you know the rest of that story. So at that point I was like thinking, okay, how am I going to still work, first of all? And then what I got to use this time. I mean, for the first month, I really just played video games and drank beer. But after that, I was like,
fine.
but after that, I was like, okay, you have this time and you need to do something with it. So I started looking into taking just like learning more about production. I started out just watching YouTube videos and I learned a lot, but then I was like, I want to go dig a little deeper into this. So I signed up for a class with Berkeley. Oh, actually, I first started with just like an online forum class called Coursera. They have all these different classes you can take. And Berkeley gives like shorter versions of their class through that. So I took one of those classes and I was like, this could be really good for me. So since then, I've taken a few Berkeley classes and I'm in my third one right now. And in that process, I was watching so much YouTube and I was looking for so much content related to production. And I found that there are very few females. There are almost not zero, but even fewer people of color and fewer LGBTQ plus folks. And I check all of those boxes. So I was like, I think I need to start figuring out how to be an example for people, because I have been digging for a lot of these answers and I would find a piece here and a piece there. And, you know, but because I just turned 40 this year, and this is something that I just always talked myself out of doing. It was like, stay in your lane. You're a singer, you're a guitar player, you're a live performer, just do what you're good at. And I've realized over this past year that the only reason I wasn't good at the other stuff is because I never gave myself the chance to do it. So when I started to get this idea about the YouTube channel, I really got into like looking into how to like do a successful channel. And it's like a lot of people can just, throw videos up there and whatever, but like, Dina, from doing this series, like consistency means a lot. So, and that's the biggest part. So I actually haven't even launched what Becca and I have been collaborating over for like the last 2.5 months, basically, but it's just how to be that in the entertainment community, and use all the things that I've learned as a woman, as a for those of you who don't know, I'm half Indian, and as a lesbian, and to just say like, hey, these are all the challenges I faced for all these different reasons, and these are the things I did to sort of overcome them. Or maybe you don't know how to write a contract to get yourself paid for a gig. Like that's kind of important. And I wish I had known those things when I was first starting out, and I didn't. So so Becca has been like amazing, made me think about so many things that I would have never thought about. And that's exactly why I called her to ask her to help, because I knew that she would be amazing at it.
So what's the next step? Where are we in this project?
So we've come up. It's video time. Yeah. So that was the other thing. I didn't have, I wanted to make sure I had some lights. I had, a camera that was going to, do the thing. And also to edit video editing. I released a single of one of my older songs back in November. And I got video from all my fans to put this video together. And it was such a huge undertaking. The editing, it takes a long time.
How many hours did that? I know which one you mean. And how many hours did that take?
Which version? Because she did she just kept because it's so hard. You're like, and then I can add this part and add this part. I mean, you can spend days just click, trim.
I want to say it was at least 10 or 12 hours of editing, at least, because I don't have that background. Again, another skill that I'm like, okay, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to need to learn how to have better sound quality through whatever equipment I have, better, think about the videos as a story, because I've watched so many now and seen some really bad ones, and I've seen some really amazing ones. And like, I'm not at a point where like some of these people are flying drones around and stuff. Like, we're not there yet, but like,
well, that's a whole new skill.
But just even, and also too, just, I'm used to talking to an audience, but you're talking to an audience, you're on this level, and then you trip up your words and you're like, well, I don't have to keep going. I don't have to figure out how to cover my butt, because I can just cut and start over. So also finding that for me, like in the few like little test ones that I've done, it's finding where I can just allow myself to flub my words and just make a joke of it, or allow my dog to walk in the frame and make it part of the story. Or, whatever the case may be. Yeah. So we've planned out the sort of intro video of it, and then we've got like 3 other videos that are ready, and the ball is in my court now. I need to really start shooting the footage, because I wanted to make sure I had like a really solid beginning, because I didn't want to put one video out and be like, oh, what's the next one now? It's like, because I have watched so much on how people like start things, stop things, and I just want to try to be as consistent as possible.
I think what's helpful too is that you, Tara, hi Tara. The thing with working together is that we often can kind of take each other down different paths, right? Something that you weren't necessarily thinking about. So a lot of times Regina will say, oh, I'm not, good at this, or I'm not good at that. And I'll be like, you're good at it. You just, you maybe get overwhelmed with this, or you get excited because you have so many different ideas at once or whatnot. So like for one example, I'll take what I'm pretty sure I think she wants to say, and I just make it bullet points for her. It's not that I'm making a script for her, because as I keep telling her, I'm like, you're so great naturally. Like, Dina, I'm sure you've seen her streams, when she's with the audience, when she's talking to people who are just in her living room, but talking to the camera. And part of that is just, that's who Regina is, not just as a person, but as a musician, as an entertainer. And it's one of the reasons that her fans love her so much. So it's finding that wonderful balance of, Dora can just walk in the photo because this is Zoom life, and this is an intimacy that I am allowing you to have, because this is this is a new level of us being in each other's spaces in a weird way. And
We're
then
embracing
also,
it
yeah, and embracing
Yeah.
it.
in the best way.
But then, on the other hand, balancing, just giving it a little bit of structure so she hits all the points she wants to hit.
Right.
And there's a beginning, middle, and end
Mm-hmm.
of these videos that we're saying, okay, you've never done a contract for yourself. How much to get paid? How do you charge people? How do you make sure you get, paid? Is it just you? Do you have a partner? How taxes work? It's the business side of things, but also the wonderful creative side of things of like, we have all this big list of all the different topics we're going to do. And one of them is like, people like to know your process. People really enjoy a behind the scenes view of, hey, I'm not a songwriter. How do you write a song? Like, do you start with the melody? Do you start with the lyrics? Do you write a poem? Do you just take a walk? Like, getting into that process with people, it connects you to them, but it gives them a little bit more of a stake in your music. And maybe they follow
It
you
does.
more, maybe they tip you a little bit more, maybe they comment a little bit more on the live stream next time. So it's
Yeah.
all the big scary, marketing machine that is, online, but it really is, it's a community. And that's the piece I think Regina is really kind of tapped into, is that how do I take what this community I think I feel like I have and broaden it, but also keep it accessible to those who are already in it.
And that's one of the things that this program is trying to do, is to sort of raise, what is the saying about all boats rise? Um, I don't know exactly what it is,
Yeah.
but but we're keeping each other afloat, and in doing some of these things, we're helping. It's good for everybody. It just it's just that help to get through some of the worst times. You have to, and I think artists are probably the best at doing that. Contractors might be a little uh, in that as well. Like they'll help each other raise the barn if they have to. But
Yeah.
um, what I think one of the things that came about during early 2020 is that um, the ability, the willingness, not even just the ability, but the willingness to help each other get through this, like sharing bits of information. And that's probably the most valuable thing we can be doing for each other right now, and getting through this. And that's probably why some of these things are successful, is
Hmm.
yeah, people are sharing their own intimate spaces. Like, can you hear Gail shuffling the cards in there? She's playing solitaire. You can't hear.
No.
Thank
She's like,
goodness.
I can hear it.
I can through these.
Like, I can hear it.
But you can't, and that's cool.
No, can't hear
Um,
it.
we were talking about helping each other before this whole thing started, and kind of going back to how Regina and I keep coming in and out of this relationship, over time. I'll go back to 2009. I've told this story a couple of times, and we've referenced little bits of this, but 2009, I think it was, it had taken me 7 years to get booked into Music Fest here in Bethlehem. And it's not so hard now, because they are really, really tuned into the local music scene, and local musicians. But then it wasn't so easy. There were less spaces to play. There were fewer stages. Going back to when I'm talking, so for 7 years I tried and I tried and I tried, and I did some things like slip somebody my demo, for the band or whatever. So 3 weeks before the date that I had finally secured, the band broke up. And of course, 7 years.
Broke up?
Oh yeah, yeah. It
Oh
just
yeah.
was no more. So
I
I
have
thought,
not heard this story.
well, so I thought I can't give this up. It took me 7 years to land this gig,
No.
and so it was a 2-hour gig, and I didn't play solo. I was part of a band, and I thought, what am I going to do? I called Regina, and I asked her if she could. I think I can pull off an hour. You want to split it with me?
You want to
So
go Splootsies?
we just share. So I was like, just bring your guitar and some songs, and we know each other well enough. We know all those Indigo Girls harmonies.
That's
That's
right.
right.
That is
You could
right.
always
That
fall
was
back
it.
on. I can do the whole thing.
Yep, and we can trade verses on those Melissa Etheridge songs. We know them
Hey,
all,
That's right.
and that's what we did. So we pulled off the 2 hours, and
wow.
then cut. So there's that one bit, and then cut forward to that time what was it? You were playing in Allentown, and you were
Allentown Brew Works, yeah. And it was the first time I was playing there. They were having these like special Martini Thursdays, and I was really excited to get into play there. And I got really, really, really sick. And I called Dina and I was like,
Oh,
I don't want to give this gig up because I would really like to keep doing it, but will you come and save my ass?
oh, yes, of course I will.
I was like, it's like I could still sing, but the thing when you're a singer that you have to worry
4
about,
hours.
it was a
that's
long gig.
Yeah.
And if you sing too much on your voice when you're sick, it just takes you that much longer to get it back. So it's
right.
really more beneficial if you just cancel, so it doesn't take you that much longer to get your full strength back. So, but I really didn't want to do that because this was a new gig. And so Dina came in and, we did a very similar thing. We traded on, she's like, hit a drum, play a chord, sing a harmony, I think is what she said earlier. And that's basically what we do when we get together and it works.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely.
That's so unique, though. I mean, the two of you being these independent singer-songwriters, female independent singer-songwriters. I think, I said to Regina, I feel like I've heard about your collaboration, you guys knowing each other or working beside each other for so long. And there's only like I can't think of only a handful of other people, that are singular, like Regina's saying. There's clearly this need, or I don't know, this space that could be filled with someone who's like, oh, hey, we're female singer-songwriters. Again, it's not to exclude anyone ever. It's just, there's a very specific thing about being, that at least I've seen through just knowing Regina, about being your own roadie, your own woman, being up there, exposing yourself, being at late alleys, dark, I mean, so many different things. It's a specific thing. And I think there's a really good opportunity for, like I said before, community around that. And just kind of, like you said, lifting each other up, helping each other, giving each other that little bit of like, hey, I'm here for you if you need someone who knows what it's like to be you.
Yeah. Absolutely does.
And there's like this. Oh, go ahead, Dina.
No. I'm listening to you.
I think there's this, now that I've had the opportunity, really starting with Dina and back when we were doing the women's resources thing, that was my first experience really like collaborating with other women, because I grew up in a town and I was lucky enough to have actually another woman in my band growing up, which was great, but not
this?
Oh yeah, Kate and CJ. Yes, they were the women that got us all together for the women's resources benefit. They were amazing. Yeah. And actually going out to see them when I was in college was what made me say, like, I had played in a band, but I had never played solo before. And I had some friends say, well, why don't you just like start going to open mics around here? And that's actually how I started playing in the Poconos. But there is a very different energy when you're just collaborating with women, or even just having one other woman in the room. Cause it's like, I mean, Dina, I think you could speak to this too. You get so used to playing with men all the time, which it's not that that's a bad thing, but when you do have like that feminine energy there, it does change things. Even for me, this last year, working with a female producer, and there were all these other amazing session musicians there. They were all men, and they were fantastic, and we all got along great. But there was something about having just that. It just felt a little more balanced, and it felt really amazing. And just anytime I get to do that with, because not for nothing, I've had very easy collaborations with a lot of men that I've come across. It's not been like hard to find or get to know them or whatever, because there's so many more of them sort of doing it out there, really, or putting themselves out there. So I relish when I get to like collaborate with another woman. I think it's amazing. I would really like to do more of it.
Yeah. And I've got a lot of thoughts on that, and we can.
I would say you must.
That's a whole nother flex.
I mean, because I have worked with a full band for many years now, and they've all been men. But the ones that I have been fortunate enough to work with understand that there's a difference in the presentation. They know there's a difference in how. Sometimes I like to say it's not how many notes they play, it's which notes they play, or which notes or which lines they sing with you. And that's, I think, in a case of where we've been working together, we know when to push the other one out front.
Yep.
And step back.
Totally.
And it's this little bit of, it's not a tug of war, and it's not a competition ever. It's a beautiful dance. And I don't know, maybe that's a personality thing, maybe it's not gender related, but one of the things I go back to, I remember hearing, you remember the Lilith tour that Sarah McLachlan had put together?
Yes.
And I don't even know, it was like 20 years ago. What the word that I had heard was, it was a bunch of divas, and they were all pop divas. Jewel, Sarah McLachlan, Sheryl Crow, I forget whoever else. But and we're going to go back to these two, when the Indigo Girls came on the tour, the energy changed. Everything changed. Completely. And they just sat around and helped and just jammed, for lack of a better word. They were willing to just there was no competition anymore. They were all there for each other together. Yeah. So I thought that was really intriguing over time. I want to remember one more thing before we forget. I promised I would bring this up, where you got each other's back, So I'm on my way. I'm getting dressed and I'm ready for the gig. I'm getting dressed and I'm ready to go out, and I'm getting in the shower, and I get a text from Regina, and it was, "This is my worst nightmare, that I would get in the car and leave something very important at home." And so she had come down from East Stroudsburg, and she landed in Bethlehem to play a First Friday gig. And she said, "Dina, I forgot my guitar." I left my guitar at home.
What?
I was like, "Gina, here's where I had the key. Go get the key. I'll leave the guitar. I'll leave a guitar for you right by my back door, right by my kitchen." So
I was having a heart attack.
You must have been so upset. I can't even imagine the level of stressed out you were.
No.
Well, no,
to do something like that. That's not like you at all.
The whole time I was driving to Dina's, I was like, what would I have done if I would have been in another town where I didn't know another musician? I would have been so screwed.
It would give you a key to their house.
I know.
I was like, "I'm hiding the key for you. Just come in and get it."
But see, that's musician's creed. That's something you do for someone else who else are you going to get a guitar that's in good condition and, is ready to play.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep, that was not one of.
You had zero guitars, not any of the multitudes of guitars
in the car.
Was this when you only had one really good working guitar?
No, this was just like a couple years ago. There was no excuses.
No backup. I didn't have your ukulele in the glove box.
I think I must have just
been shaker
frazzled
for acoustic night.
Leaving the house.
Oh, girl.
Yeah, I have dreams like that. Yeah, it happened. Yeah, so there we were. Yeah, wonderful.
There's one thing I forget, my iPad sometimes, which has all my music on it. So if I get requested weird songs, like I can still get through a whole night with no music on what I know in my brain. Mm-hmm. But you kind of can't get through a whole night without a guitar.
Or a microphone. Yeah.
Oh, my
Lord.
Lord.
Where we are.
Yeah.
So
that is such a great story, though, because, it's a perfect example of.
I don't tell people, but
what do you do?
You should tell people. This is why we're such good friends.
I've only told one person. Like, "You'll never believe what just happened."
That is so funny.
That was great. Yeah. So we have covered so much ground on this, and I don't want to miss anything. What I think is cool is that we've we're open about so many things here on this. And Becca, I want to call attention to that you're including next to your name, because like
Oh,
you don't have to do that, but you choose to.
I do.
I want to know about that.
So it's something that we started doing. Like I said, we at Pittsburgh CLO, we use StreamYard as our platform for our web series that we do. And we, at some point, we were having a discussion of, should we put our pronouns? And then a few of us started doing it. And it was like so nice to just, okay, we're doing this now. And it's not that if you don't want to, that's fine. And some guests have been like, "Oh, should I have done that I'll go back in," and like they change their name in
Yeah.
the green room or whatever. And it's really, I have found in certain situations that if you put it out there, be the first person to put it out there, which I'm perfectly happy to do. A lot of times people go, "Oh wow, look at them doing that," And it started actually catching on in our auto signatures, and people within the company have started putting their pronouns in their signatures in their email. And it never really, it was a discussion, but it wasn't like, "Oh, we're doing this as a company." It was sort of like, "Hey, do it if that feels good to you," which felt really nice because I mean, I feel there are still so many times I feel like we've come so far. I try to hold on to those moments because there are times when it feels like there's still so far to go in so many ways with women's equality and our trans sisters and brothers. And there's so many different communities who need to be lifted up. But at the same time, I'm 42. I have two moms who've been together for over 27 years. And, it came from a time when like lesbian parents was not a thing in the 90s.
No.
So, I mean, it just wasn't as big as it is now. So kind of seeing from that to now and seeing, musicians like Regina who are willing to say, "Hi, this is Regina. And, and I'll just use a phrase, we joke, I'm ethnically ambiguous." And like, because a
Yeah.
lot, I mean, and that's the thing, but I'm telling you, here's my heritage. I'm half Indian. I'm going to tell you about that. I'm also an out lesbian. It's a part of my identity. It's a part of my musicianship. And it's just like, we have people who are willing to put themselves out there in these ways that to me, I try to not get so used to it that I like, wow, this is amazing. Like, it's still a big deal to me that these things are becoming more and more the seen and more and more average. Oh, it's average that someone would do that. Oh, it makes sense that they would put their pronouns, where it's like, if I see it on a form somewhere when you're filling something out and it says preferred pronouns or preferred names, and it's like on a printed form, I'm always I'm like, okay, this is progress. This is pretty cool.
I want to ask about that. You said you see. Is it that there's an option on the form for you to choose, or is it?
Yes, I've
Okay.
several things that I've filled out lately. One at a new doctor, I was filling out forms, and it was like, "What's your preferred name? What's your preferred, what's your pronouns?" And I looked at it, and I thought, it's those moments. It's like, oh, this is really cool, but it's also like, I don't take those moments for granted because I know there's so much progress that had to lead to this,
Yeah. Yeah.
place. So it's there's a lot of damage that has been done over the last 4 years that I feel like we still have to, repair. But I think, especially in times like pandemic when things can get really, really, really heavy and hard and sad, and you just want to play video games, and that's okay. And you just take those times and you have to let yourself be sad, and you don't finish the song, or I don't finish the poem I was writing, or you just give yourself some time. But when you're able to and kind of look around and say, okay, some things are okay, and some things are actually better,
Better. Some
which
things
Mhm.
is,
are. Some things are better.
I still can't believe the whole I mean, gays getting married to me as someone who is a teenager dreaming about that being possibility is
Hmm.
still incredibly amazing. And I love that the younger generation just kind of is like, oh yeah, of course. Of course, some people have two mommies, some people have two daddies. It's like, doesn't, of course, that makes no sense. And I'm like, it does. It's really
It does.
good.
Yeah. Thank you to those who went before.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think the pronoun thing is I don't have mine on here, but I do have mine on my email signature. And I teach lessons, and I have a student who's non-binary, and just being in that sphere of using they and them, and for because a lot of people struggle with this. It's like they're so afraid to get it wrong, and they're like, well, and they dismiss it because of that, because you have to think about it.
Mhm.
And it's I mean, I still struggle with it, even though I've been teaching this student for a little while, but it's been one of the greatest gifts I could have ever been given, to be in this person's life, and to be, sort of a role model of sorts, because they are in their teenage years and trying to just, be a teenager, first and foremost, and then also just all the challenges that come along with being a creative person, and being in their case, a non-binary person. And so I just think it's a lot of it is just, it's the same. I said to them whenever they were coming out to me as non-binary, I said, it's a different version of coming out. For us, it was like, coming out as a lesbian or as a gay person. And it's just a different version of that. But also, if people before me hadn't have come out of the closet, would have given me the courage to do so. And then I try to impose that on my student and say, you're 13 and you're having the courage to ask people to use these pronouns and call you by your preferred name and things like that. And I said and I think that's one of the reasons why, going back to this whole YouTube channel and starting I always, for the longest time, was like, well, it doesn't matter. When people get to know me, they'll just know that about me. But it does matter. Some things that have happened to me more recently have sort of changed my mind on that. I happened to mention at a gig last year that on the microphone, I said something about being half Asian. I said, oh, my dad's from India. And I don't really ever say that on the microphone. Very rarely, and I had this woman come up to me after the show, and she said, my daughter would really like to meet you. She said, because, and she was Caucasian in appearance, I'm assuming. And she said, her dad's Indian. She's never met someone else who has an Indian dad and a white mom. And I was like, wow. And I kind of had that moment of like, yeah, I grew up that way, and I didn't really think too much about it. I had two awesome parents, but it did matter. Like, here was this, young girl. She was probably only like 8 or 9 years old. And she's like looking at somebody. It's like, yeah, that person has a similar life experience to me. So I think that was a big part of conceptualizing all of this with Becca, was saying, like, it does matter to say those things. And you don't have to put it in people's faces, but just to let people know, hey, we're a lot alike in a lot of ways,
You had a absolutely beautiful video that you put out a few years ago when you went to India to visit family.
Yeah.
Oh my
Oh my
gosh.
God, I absolutely that I watched that over and over. I just thought that was so fabulous. Getting that intimacy and that depth of who you are. Because as long as I know you, I don't know that part of
Yeah.
you. And I was like, this was a celebration for me to be able to watch that. And yeah,
Yeah. And
is that
it
still
is.
out there for people to see?
You know what? It's not. I actually pared down my YouTube page last year when I was trying to just be more like intentional about some of my content. So I didn't. I don't still have that up there. But you know what? Maybe I should put it back up there now that we're
Yeah.
having this
You
conversation.
should,
Like,
or put it on the Patreon,
yeah. So
Yeah,
yeah, that's
yeah. That's
for your
good
peeps.
stuff. Is the
well.
YouTube channel linked from your website?
It is, yes. You can go to my website, and then in the top right corner, all my socials are up there. My website's a little under construction right now, but the social links do work.
Okay. All right. That's good. That's good. No
I'm in the
problem
middle
then.
of moving everything over. It's up now. It's there's some kinks that didn't get worked out before my other host closed, and so I had to either be with no website or put one up that still needs some work. And so I opted to put the one up, because I got a couple messages last week and like, where are you playing? And I was like, oh gosh, they don't know because my website's down right now, but it's up now. It's just very it just needs a little work. That's all.
This is where we're heading into some territory. We're getting back to that whole thing about learning all of these new things during this past year. For example, learning how to use this platform and stuff.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
you're branding yourself. You're almost rebranding yourself. What, for maybe like a second or third time? You know what I mean? Like, we
Yes.
go
Yeah.
through this evolution of who we are. And now that we have to have a real good internet presence, not everyone is good at that.
Yeah.
Not everyone is good at that.
I think it's also just allowing yourself to do things that you're like, well, that's not really me. Well, why isn't it you? Just ask yourself that question, because if you would have told me a couple of years ago that I was going to make music on something that looked like this, I would have, I would have been like, what?
Yeah.
But this thing is amazing, and it's taught me how to record all my own parts and then just literally have my own band, and it's not rely on other people. And like, I of course I still want to collaborate and make music with people, but it's amazing to have the option to just do that, and evolve.
So a few years ago when I opened for you at that Sherman Theater show, afterwards, your brother Coyle said to me he wanted to make a dance mix of what at the time was a brand new song called Round and Round, right? And I have never forgotten about that. I'm like, I'm like, well, maybe Regina could help me do.
It's so funny,
beats, right?
There you go.
I probably could now, but it's so funny. He mentioned that to me. I said, when I was talking to him a couple weeks ago, my friend Dina, he's like, you know what? She sent me that song and I totally dropped the ball on that all those years ago. He even remembered that.
I remember it. Yeah. I didn't know anything was ever going to happen with it, but yeah, I've never forgotten it. It's still in my mind. It might happen yet. I have a 2022 recording in the works. It's in the works. So maybe that'll be, the bonus track.
Yeah.
Will be a dance version. Submissions accepted.
For remix. For Dina's remix.
Give me the beats, people. Send me the beats.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, it's a really liberating thing and Dina, you have a percussion background too, so you probably would love it. It's really made me think outside of my tiny little guitar and singer box that I've been in for so long, and it's been so awesome. I mean, you can't see it. I have a bass guitar back here on my wall too, and I've actually been playing some bass, and it's been really
next
great.
Next time we play together, you bring in the bass.
Yeah.
I promise.
Okay.
I promise
I like
that.
it.
Yeah.
Well,
I love.
Yeah, yesterday, 2 days ago, I was fulfilling a request. Somebody wanted a video of a song to put into a long virtual anniversary celebration. It's going to be online for WDIY. So I thought, okay, one song. Which song should it be? All right, it's going to be a new one. So I get the song together. I do the recording. I recorded it in here so that I would have the audio and the video. And then I set up the iPad as well to get another angle. And for whatever reason, the audio on this thing was nothing. It was,
oh no!
I spent the entire morning getting all of my everything working, all the lighting, the angles, and everything. So I ended up using because it went through the amp. I used the iPad audio and video, but then I recorded another track with the cajon.
Oh, cool!
Huh.
And and then mixed those two. With the video, so that I have sort of like I come in on a little spike, because you don't want to see me hitting the cajon the whole entire time. It would be stupid on like a split or something. So I worked that in, but it took all day.
Oh,
it
yeah.
took all day.
It is.
But
when you feel like you're amazed when you're done. You're just like,
I did.
It's a great feeling. So she was like, we use a video messaging app called Marco Polo. So she'll like take a video and she's like, I just figured this out. Watch, I'm sending you the video. You have to tell me what you think. And it's like her figuring out a new cool trick on her. And I'm like, because I think, like you said, not everybody, adapting is one thing. Surviving a pandemic is another. Surviving as a musician in a pandemic is an entirely different thing.
Mm-hmm.
And not only with the live streams, but I think because, Regina, you're willing to push yourself to learn new skills, something that, like you said, is like, I don't know if I'm like necessarily, a beats person or this or that, but, all of a sudden because you have such a good sense of what you want things to sound like, and that comes from a very, long history of being a musician, you tapped into it so easily and so like quickly that you're just like, oh, I want to get better. I just want to get better, which is pretty awesome, because you're the one, you have a lot of self-motivation, but also like, if it ever gets to a point where you're like, I don't know what I'm doing with this, listen to this, because needs to go somewhere in the middle. I don't know. Like, so I'll be like, I don't think it's good.
Well, I get to that point now, and now that I'm actually like deconstructing songs, and like right now I'm working on a song for a school project, and it's like I have to be able to perform it live, right? So I have to record all the parts, put them into sequence, and be able to like launch them at the appropriate time. And so because I'm an instrumentalist and a singer, I'm trying to do that, launch everything, set it up so it can launch. And I'm doing Rumor Has It by Adele. So it's like Adele didn't play all these parts by herself when she was in the studio.
That's right. Look at you.
But also, I mean, obviously it's a very simplified version. It's not as complex, but just even the thought process of saying, of like listening to the original recording. And I was going to do something original, but I thought, you know what? I want to model this off a song that I know that I've never played before. So I've never played Rumor Has It. And I thought, how do I organize this in my brain to then organize it into this pad that I have to then perform it? And I'll tell you, it has been such a frustrating thing. And like, I want it, I mean, it's a couple of days past due, but I also have, through the struggle of what this is right now, is how the next time is going to be that much easier. And it's why I picked a song like this, because I was like, I want to be able to like actually do this out in public eventually whenever that can happen.
Right.
So as much, I think that's why I didn't tackle something like this for so long, because I could just put it aside and go, I'm going to go out and play my gigs. Well, I don't have that in that way now. So it's been like, well, what else are you doing with your life? Yes, you stick to this, do this, because you're only going to be able to then help other people along the way. And it's like, I was for a while, several months, I was like lamenting, like, oh, I should have done this 10 years ago. But it's like, that wasn't the time. And now is the time. And now I have the motivation. And now I have a better network even of people to go to as a support system, you know, Becca being one of them, obviously. Yeah. So,
the foundation.
So I would just say that, especially to anybody watching, like whatever it is, if it's, you know, artistic or, you know, I just played at a party last year for a woman who, she was in her 50s and she went back to school and got an interior design degree. And it's something that she always wanted to do. And I thought, you know what? You aren't too old to do these things, like, or just do it. Just figure out the time, make time for yourself, and just do it. Yeah.
That's right.
So that's been a big part of this. It's been that more than it's even been like, oh, you're a musician. It's like, no, you've always wanted to do this thing, whatever it is. Like, make the time for yourself, put the effort into it, make the mistakes, get frustrated, have to leave it 3 different times and go back to it, you know? Yeah.
And you did it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you did it.
Wow.
Well, it's not done yet, but I'm gonna have done it by the end of this week.
You're doing all the things, though. You really have learned an insane amount over this last year.
Yeah, I have.
Technologically and with all the cool gadgets, and I mean, I won't pretend to understand it because I don't. But it's impressive.
All right, so we're gonna next time we get together, we're gonna have a final project from Regina on this, and then we're going to have videos. You need to send your videos. Becca needs your videos complete so you can get that YouTube channel finished. So
yes,
we're getting all that.
And then we're
done.
just gonna. We'll just
and then it's going to
rack it from there.
There we go. All right.
Yes,
and then we're going to share it to the world.
That's right.
All the things. Yes.
Okay. All right, ladies. It's 8:34, so we've been rapping for about an hour or so. And that's very cool. I've enjoyed this very much. Is there anything else we'd ought to hit that we missed or we don't want to forget to tell the people?
No, just thank you so much for having us. This is so fun.
Every once in a while. Oh, here we go. All right, so the very last thing we have to do is a high five. Can you do this?
Wow.
To each other? Can you get each other?
Can you do... I got to go this way, so I got to go that way.
Candy Robinson said, so enjoyable. Thank you. And yeah, Mom, we enjoyed it. Huh?
Thanks for watching.
And thank you for sharing. Dave Fry chiming in.
So nice.
Yeah, everybody enjoying this very much. All right, I appreciate it. I'll see you again soon.
Thank you so much, Dina.
Thanks, Dina.
Hello to Pittsburgh. Hello to East Stroudsburg. And we'll be back another day. Thanks, all. Bye. Thank you all for watching tonight. And coming up March 3rd, I think is the date. Wait, it might be March 10th. Let me double check. March 10th. This is very exciting. Mandy Martin is a visual artist from Bucks County, I believe. Bucks County, Pennsylvania. She has been chosen, her artwork was chosen for the 2021 Music Fest poster. And I'm going to say right out loud now, it's probably my favorite yet. And it's hopeful. It's a hopeful poster. Anyway, we're going to talk about that a little bit, but we're going to talk about Mandy and her art. And that is all coming up March 10th. That is the next episode. Thanks all for tuning in.